Welcome to the Regulated Industry Committee. This may be the last meeting that we have that you will see this little amount of action. Today we're going to have a presentation by the Georgia Lottery for the benefit of the committee. A little bit of history and a little bit about their inner workings right now, and then we're going to have a presentation from the COAM industry. Gretchen?
Sir. Good afternoon. My name is Gretchen Corbin. I'm the President and CEO of the Georgia Lottery Corporation. Mr. Chairman, thank you and members of the committee for hosting the Georgia Lottery today. We're excited to be with the House Regulated Industries Committee, and we look forward to working with each and every one of you this year. My goal today is to provide you information on the history of the Georgia Lottery, our performance to date, and where we are going, how we are going to continue to grow to meet the needs of Georgia. This is a look of our past and current logo and games. As you can see, a lot has changed in 25 years. And I remember these, 25 years ago, it was an exciting day, the first day we sold our tickets. We sold the first ticket June 29th, 1993, and on that day we sold more than 13 million tickets. When the lottery began, 70% of our sales were from draw games, like Cash 3 and Lotto Georgia, and 25 years later, our portfolio is reversed, where the majority of our games are instant games and are scratcher tickets. So those are 70% of our sales at this point in time. And as you know, we follow the vision of Governor Miller, that if Georgia could provide students with high-quality start to their education via pre-K and then continue on with a quality education in college and university, that chances are that they would remain in Georgia, work here, create jobs here, and be the next economic drivers of Georgia, and that has proven to be true. I think in all of our home communities, it's really exciting to see our Hope and pre-K students and all that they are doing after they graduate from technical college and the universities. The Georgia Lottery was formed by a constitutional amendment in 1992 for the purpose of generating funds for education, including Hope and pre-K. And we operate under several areas of oversight, including our board of directors, our legislative oversight committees, which this obviously is the committee in the House, and in the Senate, it is the Economic Development Committee. We provide a series of quarterly and annual reports and audits to many, including the chairman of the oversight committees in the House and Senate. And in the Lottery for Education Act, it states that lottery funds are to be used to supplement, not supplant, state funding of existing educational programs. The lottery does not receive state appropriations, and 100% of our proceeds are transferred quarterly to the Lottery for Education account, and that's where our job ends. We like to stay in our lane, generate the revenue, send it to you, and Governor Kemp and you, as members of the General Assembly, appropriate those lottery funds annually. With our mission to maximize revenues for Hope and Pre-K, we've raised more than $20.5 billion in our 25 years for education. There have been more than 1.8 million Hope Scholarship and grant recipients, and have been more than 1.6 million four-year-olds who've attended our lottery-funded pre-K. And based on the most recently published rankings, out of 45 United States lotteries and approximately 180 world lotteries, the Georgia Lottery ranks number 2 in the nation and number 5 in the world in total per capita sales. I love this slide here, and this is our trend line of transfers annually since 1994. In fiscal year 18, our annual transfer to the Georgia Lottery for Education account equaled $1.14 billion, which was an increase of $42 million from the previous year. And it was our 7th consecutive record-setting year and our 3rd consecutive year to be over $1 billion of returns to the state. From 2012 to 2018, our returns increased by 27%. And on average, just a little note to take with you is that the Georgia Lottery generates approximately $3 million for Hope and Pre-K in every single day, except when it rains and it snows. We like good weather at the lottery. An important question we are often asked is how the money is distributed. Approximately 96 cents of every Georgia lottery is invested back to Georgia, to the citizens of Georgia in the form of education, retailer commissions, and prizes. And you can see in fiscal year 18 that our largest expense, as it always is, because it is our product, was the prizes that we paid to players. That was followed by our returns to the state treasury, then retailer commissions, which are set legislatively at 6% of sales. 2% goes to our vendors to operate our games, and the remaining 2% makes up our entire marketing, advertising, and promotional budget, as well as our operating expenses for 360 employees, the headquarters, and 8 district office locations. And COAM, Mr. Chairman, I'm excited to hear more about COAM today. As you know, in the 2013 legislative session, the responsibility for COAM, which is coin-operated amusement machines, was transferred from the Department of Revenue to the Georgia Lottery. Our responsibilities include licensing, permitting, collections, and compliance. We license over 22,000 machines statewide, all connected to a centralized accounting system. The revenue share meant $58 million last year and $155 million since inception. And this year's revenue share for COAM increased to 9% and will cap out legislatively at 10% next year. So where we are to date, this year's goal of returns to Georgia is $1.15 billion, and I'm happy to report that we are on our way to meeting our goal. We've just completed the most successful 6 months in the Georgia Lottery history, and this past quarter we made the largest quarterly transfer to the Lottery for Education account in the amount of $323.6 million for this past quarter. This slide shows where we are halfway through fiscal year 19 compared to this time last year. We're currently in a positive financial position, up $40.1 million year to date. And of course, that amount will fluctuate throughout the fiscal year, depending upon jackpot levels and other external factors. But our product is robust, and we expect strong returns for fiscal year 19. So how do we continue to grow? Well, innovation is something that we have to look at daily. Innovation is key to the Georgia Lottery, and understanding that our responsibility is to grow revenues, we innovate daily through our product, our sales location, and our technology. And in regards to product, we are conducting research and development every day. We introduce new instant games every month, and we make sure our customers are aware and engaged with exciting promotions. I mentioned last week that you'll see our Atlanta United ticket in the left corner, top corner of this slide. This is a ticket that you will see on the shelves in March, of course celebrating the great Atlanta United team that we're very proud of in Georgia. So we always want to make sure that our customers are engaged and they are excited about our product. In regards to sales locations, our best friend has been and always will be our more than 8,600 retailers throughout Georgia in all of your communities. We also work with corporate retailers, and we have our own locations that are operated by the Georgia Lottery, such as our airport kiosk. And these locations are, again, our 3 airport kiosks and our 1 kiosk at our headquarters downtown at Centennial Park. And speaking of the airport, our Atlanta airport kiosks have the 2nd highest sales of any lottery location in Georgia. And we want to be where people are. So you'll see us in the airport. You'll see us inside sports stadiums, even at Sloppy Floyd, or I understand that we're in the gift shop close to 111, if y'all would like to purchase some tickets there after the meeting, Mr. Chairman. And on this slide, you'll see something that we're very excited about, and that is our most recent kiosk at the Atlanta airport, and that is within the T-gates. So it is our first presence inside security. You will probably know that we have 2 locations, both inside baggage claim on the north side and the south side. This is our first kiosk on the T-gates inside security. We think that we will see more of a traveler, obviously, inside security, and are excited to watch that location as it grows. And we work daily on our digital component, which includes our online offerings as well as our Georgia Lottery mobile app. Mr. Chairman, we've mentioned 25 years. Every day our employees come in laser focused to generate the largest amount of revenues possible to send to the state of Georgia for education. We love this slide because it demonstrates not just the technical college system and the university system. Top left is Josefina Bustos, and she is a student within the technical college system of Georgia. She received the Hope Career Grant in nursing and has been incredibly successful for herself, her family, and her community. Also at the bottom right is Lindsay McMichael. Lindsay was a student within the university system. She was a Hope Scholarship recipient as well as a Zell Miller recipient. And she's what we call the trifecta. She was also a pre-K student, and she has gone on to be a teacher in the school system, in her public school system, and again is giving back to the community. We go to work every day, laser focused, that every dollar we can make and send back to you goes straight to education, and we will continue to do that. As always, enjoy working with this committee, look forward to our work. And at this point, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks, with the exception of we have placed at your request our audit inside our package, and of course, I'm happy to answer any questions and always want to extend also the invitation for you and members of the committee to join us at lottery operations as well.
And if there's one gentleman, your legislative affairs guy, to the committee members, if you don't know him already, Brad,
Thank you.
introduce yourself.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Brad O'Hannon, Legislative Affairs for the Georgia Lottery, so if you need anything from me, I'll be available.
Do you have any of your other people with you today that you'd like to introduce?
Yes, Betsy Bradfield is also on our legislative team. And then I guess we don't have any official members of the lottery, but I know behind us we have members of the COAM industry, our Retailers Association, our vendors, and so we know we could not go to work every day without those partners as well.
Right. All right, we have a couple of members who want to ask a question.
Great.
Dr. Mitchell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Corbett, we have several members previously and presently who have submitted bills that would dictate that the dedication of those proceeds go to other sources other than education. For instance, one that I can think of is veterans. I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Well, in all public policy, we will always defer to the legislature and the governor, and we will execute as you tell us to every time. I will say that as you are considering any other beneficiaries, that you just have to note that there will be there will be an impact on the current beneficiaries of education.
And as a side, if I may, Mr. Chairman, you're the lottery board.
Yes, sir.
When did the next appointments to that board come up?
At the end of this fiscal year, there will be 2 appointments that will come up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you willing to give up your legislative seat for one of those?
Actually, I just want to be.
Are you, I was just curious,
Driver.
I was just curious whether you were trolling for a new job.
I just want to be his driver, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ridley.
I just had a quick question. Earlier, whenever you were describing this, you said that about 96 cents of every dollar comes back to the state of Georgia. Is that looked off of a dollar ticket, $2, $5? I mean, you got $20 tickets now or $25 tickets. So how does that average? How do y'all get that 96 cents?
That's looking at the full picture of
Okay.
of the lottery returns.
Okay, so that's just an overall average.
Correct,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Ms. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam. Question, just for information's sake, when will the opportunity come again to discuss need-based proceeds going to need-based students?
Again, I apologize, I have to defer to the policymakers, because at the Georgia Lottery, we try to stay in our lane and just doing our work at the lottery to generate the revenues, and we do not get into those policy discussions. So I apologize, I would have to defer that question to, I believe, probably Georgia Student Finance Commission is who I would defer that to.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see, who is number 27 down there? Yes, sir, Mr. Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for being here. I'm curious, you got my brain turning in your presentation. Ballpark, do you have a feel for what's the revenue look like on the airport stores that you guys have open currently? I've walked by those like 500 times, and every time I walk by it, I think, how in the world does that stay open?
It's a large amount, and I would be remiss if I threw out a number. I will
Sure.
get back to you immediately today. That's
Thank you very much.
But I will say again, as I mentioned, combined, the airport stores and our kiosks, but the airport's doing our headquarters kiosk, but the airports are doing the majority of that business. Again, they're the number 2 retailer when you compare it to anyone in the state. So
Wow.
it's doing very well.
And who's number 1 retailer?
It is a retailer in Tallapoosa.
Okay.
I believe Robinson's is the name. It goes back and forth. I want to make sure that I'm throwing out the correct name, but we've got some incredible retailers in the state. But as you can imagine, on the Alabama line, they see a lot of business.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Collins.
Just one quick question, if I may. Have you ever considered putting those in the welcome centers right there on the state lines? Some
Actually,
kiosks.
thank you for that question. We do have some vending machines, so we have that presence there and have the partnership with the visitor center, so thank you. If I can go back to your question, because I can still see my wheels turn every time I start to think, you know, what I found with the airport, because I spend a lot of time behind the counters, and if you ever want to go, I'd love to have you. What you see is you see a lot of travelers coming home, individuals like us that you go to baggage, but you also see a lot of individuals who are in the airport daily, where my stop might be at my Kangaroo. I can tell you exactly where it is between Rome and Atlanta. The individuals who work at the airport oftentimes go by those kiosks as they are going into work. And so that's why we're excited about the T-Gate, because we think that there will be that added customer of the true traveler. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Well, I certainly want to tell you how much I appreciate you taking time to come and the job that you and your people do.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
And as probably the last serving member who was on the original Lottery Oversight Committee
Well-
in '93,
Yes, sir.
I just have a question to see if anybody's good on their history. Can anybody here remember what the first winner of the Georgia Lottery said when they presented him the check? You don't? He stood up in front of Governor Miller and he said, "Thank God I've won this. I can buy a double wide and move to Alabama." And Zell Miller almost passed out. So, very good.
About like
Thank
the guy from Florida, that won the first one. It was like $1 million. They asked him what he was gonna do, and he said, "I'm gonna put it on my wife's credit card bill and keep working."
Smart gentleman, smart gentleman.
Yeah. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. And the committee looks forward to us coming over and taking a tour of your operations
Great, we
one
look
day.
forward to that as well. Thank you.
Next up, we're gonna have a presentation from the COAM industry. Bess? Are you by yourself today?
I am.
All right.
Members of the committee, my name is Les Schneider. I'm an attorney with Wimberly & Lawson, and I represent the Georgia Amusement and Music Operators Association. I have a very able partner in working on this for this industry, Sheila Hummerstone. There's a small issue called CON that has some hearings today, so she works on that issue also. And I worked on that issue about 25 years ago with a certain chairman who chairs this committee, so I understand the necessity and the importance of that issue also. But I did want to come and talk to you today about the COAM industry. COAM stands for Coin-Operated Music Machines. Graduating from law school, you know, sometimes some people handle the big Supreme Court cases in the world, and others, you know, the very big death penalty cases. And I do labor law or employment law or whatever, but I do guess at the end of the day I make sure that the world is safe for Pac-Man and pinball and skee ball and video games, et cetera. And I spent a lot of my legal career going from one little city and county to another in the state to make sure that people didn't confuse the fact that Pac-Man was going to ruin the world as they understood it, and life moved forward. The history of COAM is really interesting. There are a lot of homegrown folks who were born in Georgia who got into this industry, and it was a outgrowth of the fact that many businesses needed supplemental income in their business. And a lot of you have stores in your areas, in your districts, and some of the convenience stores and some of the other places, the larger places like Six Flags and perhaps Dave & Buster's, et cetera, that without the revenue they generate from coin-operated amusement machines, their business sometimes wouldn't be doing as well. We have always tried to be a part of a larger business. Going to Representative Mitchell's issue, I could tell you that we are striving very hard to help the American Legion, the veteran, the VFWs, a lot of the fraternal organizations, because we know what the need is as far as funds for those organizations and some of the good works that they do. And I'll talk to you a moment about one of the things we'd like to see all of you consider. But we have really made a difference, we think, in a lot of people's lives. Granted, it's entertainment. These games all have to have some skill. You have to interact with the game to be a successful player. It's not like a gambling device, the slot machine, where you don't do anything and it just has a set percentage outcome. For a long time, this was done by a city-by-city, county-by-county situation. We dealt with regulatory frameworks that were so unfair, it was amazing. The Walmart in town would pay an occupational tax of $50, but God forbid you had a pool table in a bar, that was $15,000. So some of those things all changed and got real, as they say, in doing it. But at one point, there was a bill in the legislature that passed that basically set up a license and a sticker system for the machines. And that today, those licenses and stickers generate millions of dollars, probably $10 to $15 million a year. It probably pays for all of the administrative cost that you saw that the lottery handles today. That sticker system started with the Department of Revenue, and there was a gentleman there, I don't know how many of you remember him, but there was a gentleman who now is basically retired, Chet Bryant. And let me say that, people always ask me, isn't it hard to work with the legislature? They come in for 40 days and they can cuff you around and give you a hard time. Trust me, you all are easy to work with. It's the bureaucracy that's really the challenge. And at the end of the day, when you get a good bureaucrat, like at Chet Bryant, he allowed this industry to really have a proper meld of enforcement, but at the same time, some regulatory scheme that made sense to everybody, and it helped small businesses. And we've always been very appreciative of the kind of work that he did. As Ms. Corbin indicated, we moved from the Revenue Department to the lottery, and that has been I think, a very solid transition. I think, like in all cases, when you deal with a new agency, everybody learns from everybody else, and we have tried to blend the business savvy that these people have all these years with the type of regulatory framework that's necessary. And I think you saw the statistic on the slide about $58 million being able to go toward the education in Georgia. We would like to see that number grow largely. And I think through some vision and some leadership, we can get there. Obviously, Representative Powell has been involved in certain bills. Representative Earhart, your husband, was involved in a few bills regarding this industry, and it has really helped because I can tell you, I know the 50 states, and I know the laws that exist or don't exist on COAMs in those states, and nobody has had the success that we have because the legislature has taken the time to work with the industry and develop a set of rules and regulations and laws that allows us to prosper. You all know, no matter how old or young you are, you can play almost any of these games on your home computer or your phone at this point. Obviously, the redemption piece that was added to the law made a tremendous difference. The industry has died off in some other states, but because of the fact that you all had the vision to work with us on a non-cash redemption basis, it has really made, it has allowed us to continue to be viable and positive and moving forward. There are many, many opportunities that can enhance revenues for the private sector and the state without any tax increase. But we've all got to have the vision to work together to get there. I have no doubt that all of you have the inclination to want to understand how the business works and to help us get there. I had a former member of the House once tell me the difference between leadership and headship is that headship is you're the head person, they got to listen to you. Leadership is where you take people from where they are to where they need to be. And you all have really helped this industry enormously over the years, and I hope that that philosophy continues. As Ms. Bennett indicated, you know, we are concerned about, you know, education, and we're happy that we keep feeding the funnel for hope and pre-K. But I can tell you that this industry tries to have even a broader perspective. We want to help the groups like the veterans, and we understand that, you know, education is important. And at the end of the day, though, we have to make sure that you're not only helping education and maybe even needs-based education, but you also got to help rural health care. And you got to help those other things that make sure that the state moves forward and we just don't get stuck in the same lane all the time. So we think there's some terrific opportunities where there can be an income flow beyond the percentage that the lottery is giving toward education. We think there are some programs that can make this grow even larger, and that perhaps the legislature will look at some of the ideas that Representative Mitchell referenced, that I've heard the chairman reference, and I've heard Ms. Bennett talk about. We want to maximize our revenue. We want to have the partnership with small businesses. And again, the way the system works is the state gets a certain amount of money, the location owner gets a certain amount of money, and the machine owner gets a certain amount of money. It is in everybody's best interest to make sure that we encourage folks to be able to take the best economic opportunity and move forward. And it's, Chuck Bryant used to say to me, he said, you know, I'm the regulator, but I don't feel I have to sit there and punish people. He said, I think I could be positive and move forward. And I've listened to gubernatorial candidates talk about businesses should work so that we allow the system so that the people who want to do right are not stymied by the people who don't do right. And there is a balance here that we hope you all will engender and encourage everybody to do. I'm very fond of a number of people at the lottery, and I'm not just saying it because Gretchen's here. There are some folks there that really have a commitment to moving everything forward, and we always want to have a dialogue. I understand politics after all these years. They say what a good lawyer should have gray hair and hemorrhoids, because the gray hair makes you look distinguished and the hemorrhoids make you look concerned. All right, I have dealt with the fact that sometimes we should never let the perfect get in the way of the possible around here, and that we have to move things forward and have improvement. We want to do just that. I think our games are a complement to the lottery. We think that there can be games that can be developed that further take advantage of the positive judicial decisions that have occurred in a lot of areas affecting our industry. We do have the capacity for original thought, and I hope that the atmosphere is here so that we can get that positive thought and move forward. I can tell you that there are probably 50 or 60,000 jobs that are tied to this industry, whether you're a location owner, whether you are a master license holder, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a manufacturer. We have attracted, because of the laws that you all have passed, industries that are manufacture these type of games in this state. We have been a very positive part. We want to try to be a trailblazer in what we do. But we also want the point that was made earlier about research and development. Research and development includes not just doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's trying to develop a complementary relationship so that we can really move forward. We have a COAM advisory board that, you know, works with the lottery, makes suggestions or whatever. We want that to be a very robust board. We want to always feel that we can talk about any ideas that we can do to move the state forward. And I know it sounds silly to say, well, is Pac-Man really moving the state forward? But at the end of the day, it does, because I think we do create a lot of jobs. Trust me, I can't design a game, but I have seen all the jobs that have come from the designing of a game and the selling of the game and the playing of the game. And we have a lot of opportunities here to really move forward. And I can just say that we always want to do what is best for this industry, but we also want to do what's best for the state. And I have never seen a piece of legislation that affects our industry that you all have worked on. It has helped us move forward. We've certainly have taken a couple of steps back in previous years, a long, long time ago when I didn't have gray hair, but we survived that, all right? But we want to really come up with some unique issues, and we don't want those issues shut down. We want to be able to say to all of you that we were a part of the solution of what occurs in this state. And that is the long and short of it. I'm sure if Sheila was here, she'd be sticking her elbow in my ribs saying, enough, you've said enough. You know, we don't want to talk much more about this. But this industry means a lot to me personally. I have seen people with their families and they graduate, you know, they have children graduate from college or whatever. This industry has helped a lot of businesses stay in business, and it's been a good part of things. You see it more maybe in the larger places of the Dave & Buster's and the Six Flags and the things like that. But sometimes that small retailer that's got 3 or 4 machines in his location, that amount of money makes all the difference, and it helps them do certain other things in their business that make a difference. And our redemption, I think, has driven sales in a lot of these businesses, and it's helped out. So we're really proud of what we do. We're always open to innovative thinking, and we never try to shut down and say, well, it's not possible. We try to work forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions about the industry or anything else that would be tangential to that.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Snyder? No? Y'all look stunned. Well,
Thank you.
y'all need to get to know Les, because he's got quite the intellect. No questions? Thanks, Les. We appreciate it. Now, for the committee, since this probably be your last short committee meeting here, I've got a couple of issues I'd like to bring up. Is Gretchen still here? I would encourage y'all, for a safe place, you could put some lottery machines either in the Capitol or LOB, because I can almost assure you that no criminal will have access, because law-abiding folks can't hardly get in here either. All right, to the committee members, I'd like for y'all to think about a schedule for a committee dinner for this whole committee. Probably be in the month of March. You know when your sine die day is, so try not to extend it, but I'd like to come up with a common date, either the day of the week or something, so we could put together a dinner of thanks for the work that y'all have done and you're going to be doing. And if y'all could pass that along to Jan as soon as you possibly can. Secondly, we've been assigned a bill, that I didn't anticipate at our first meeting when I gave you fair warning about the subject matters that you were going to be hearing in this committee. This committee, 4 years ago, the General Assembly decided that medical cannabis oil was due its time to help medically fragile people. There's been problems with that because of certain federal laws, plus the fact it's not, there's no growing stock in Georgia. This past year, there was a cannabis study committee that did a good bit of work, heard an awful lot of testimony from around the state. That bill has now been put in and it's been assigned to regulated industries. I have looked at the committees, and since this really didn't quite fit the bill for any of the standing subcommittees we had, and I decided, because of the importance of this bill, that I'm going to establish a special subcommittee just for this bill. Now, that reason I'm bringing that up to the members here, I would like for y'all, at your convenience, to let me know, like in the next day, whether you have any problems of serving on that subcommittee, because you will have, this will be a time-consuming subcommittee in short order, because we've only got probably a week at the best to get this bill perfected, to look at it, to take testimony. So that means that some folks will have to be here, maybe later in the evenings or earlier in the mornings. I know that we have some members that when they finish their day pretty early, they skittle on out of here and go about their way. But this is something that's going to require some time. So at the proper time, if anybody has a problem and would not like to be considered for this committee, then if you would please let me or Jan know privately, and that way I'll be appointing this subcommittee. That being said, is there any other business in front of this committee? You see the gentleman over here with a hat on that looks like Rasputin the monk. To those of y'all who will be privileged to do the people's work on trying to craft this cannabis oil bill, he'll probably be there as your guardian angel. Thank you. That being said, we stand adjourned.